GCC economies are projected to expand by 6.9% in 2022 before moderating to 3.7% and 2.4% in 2023 and 2024, respectively. That's according to the World Bank Gulf Economic Update, which outlines green growth opportunities in the GCC as well. And we're joined by World Bank GCC Country Director, Mr. Issam Abu Sulaiman. Thanks so much for being with us today. Now, tell us about your strong forecast for GCC twin surpluses this year.
Good morning, Ramia, and thank you for hosting me at Forbes. The GCC is actually one of the regions in the world, the very few regions in the world with a bright spot in economic terms. So what we see first is the regional fiscal balance is projected to register a surplus in 2022. This is the first surplus, just to remind everyone, this first surplus since 2014. It's of course reflecting the ongoing effort of fiscal consolidation and the higher recovery in oil prices. So we expect that this surplus will be around 5.3% of GDP in 2022, and this is a major improvement from the high deficit record of 10.8% in 2020. So, and the anticipated strong fiscal performance is driven by the oil receipt, of course, but also the sharp increase in oil prices and the underpinning by ongoing recovery of non-oil activity in the GCC.
You mentioned non-oil activity and you identify green growth opportunities in the GCC. Where would you say the biggest opportunities are for GCC countries in terms of green growth?
Look, what we have seen in the world, is that today the renewable energy is the cheapest. It's actually cheapest than the coal by almost 30% of what we have seen the cost in the GCC, mainly in Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, where we have a record low cost of renewable energy. So a big part comes from there. The other part comes from the upstream and downstream industry that would enable the green economy to move forward. And this is the industry related, for example, to solar panels, wind turbine, batteries, and so on the upstream. On the downstream, as we have seen already, investment in electric vehicle and other type of industry that will allow this growth to move forward. In our forecast, basically, we're seeing that the economy of the GCC moving into implementing a green growth strategy can really improve the prospect of the medium and long-term growth that they have.
You actually did forecast, sir, total GCC GDP at $6 trillion by 2050 if they continue business as usual, but you say if they implement green growth strategy, it will reach over $13 trillion by 2050. Can you break down this forecast for us?
Yes, Ramia, this is a very interesting part of our Gulf Economic Update, and we think that the extra per year growth that they will get is between 3 to 6%. So the 13 trillion is actually on the low side of this extra yearly growth if they implement a green growth strategy. It is a little bit technical, but let me try to break it down. So look, we basically have several things that contribute to this. One is that as of today, we have a $2 trillion economy in the GCC. Business as usual, 2050, by 4% increase, it will get you to around $6 trillion. If we add this 3 extra percentage points per year, we'll get to $13 trillion. However, this is only like business as usual, except international experience has showed when country has moved into green growth strategy and implementation, they get a productivity increase in there. And we have forecasted a very low total factor productivity increase of 1%. And that is the contribution, the main contribution to get this extra growth that will allow jobs and for the use of this region, but also the growth in export of the green economy from energy itself, but also from what I said earlier, the upstream and downstream.
So GCC economies have been reliant on oil exports for the past 50 years, and this is a way of generating new incomes in the decades to come, isn't it?
Indeed, Ramia, this what we have seen in the GCC over the last probably couple of decades is that the non-oil exports have been stagnating. There is no growth basically in relation to their GDP in their non-oil export. And going into the future, the green growth strategy and implementing it in a really good way will allow the GCC countries to increase their non-oil export into the upstream and downstream industries that will allow basically the green economy to flourish. And this means basically things like a solar panel and turbine and so on, but also like electrical vehicle and so on the downstream side. This is an important part of the conversation going forward that will allow GCC by 2050, 2060, when the oil and gas probably will not be as needed for energy, to get a lot of income from export that is not related to oil.
Really important opportunities to capitalize on in the future. World Bank GCC Country Director Issam Abu Sulaiman, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ramia, and great to meet you.